In the neighborhood where I live, Thursday is garbage day. To the curb by 7 a.m., says the City of Toronto, and the TO Waste app even notifies me 12 hours ahead of time that it's time to put the garbage out, but it makes no difference. 90% of the time, my cue to put the garbage out is the sound of the truck about 50 meters from my front door when I suddenly remember what day it is and take off running. I live in a neighborhood where things left at the curb usually disappear within 24 hours, and this is incredibly handy. Except no one wanted the 2 extra bags of insulation I'd left out. Stuffing from a heavy punching bag purchased early pandemic that had since ripped and failed in the only job it had, to get hit. I'd put the bags of insulation at the curb along with 2 old towels that had also been inside the punching bag, and I draped the towels on top so you couldn't see the insulation spilling out of the garbage bags. And sure enough, within 24 hours, someone had taken both towels, but they left the garbage bag, and I waited in vain for someone to pick them up. I thought. Free insulation, I added in a Sharpie on a scrap old fence board, as if the limiting factor to someone taking away the bags was the lack of clarity about what was inside. Oh, it's insulation. No one cared. So it sat there ugly and overflowing and embarrassing for a week. Until garbage day, where even without that extra yellow tag you're supposed to pay for, the garbage man took it anyway, because that's what the garbage man does. But that was last garbage day. I was a new man now, clean and neat garbage day, put out the night before when the app told me it was time, all organized straight along the curb, neat looking, because what's most important is that my garbage looks good. Our route has 2 workers, one black, one white, who work as a team in their acid green garbage truck. They take turns, one ascending the giant stairs to the cab 15 feet in the air, the other descending to grab the black garbage bins, drag them over to the yellow mechanical jaws whose hydraulics pull everything into the gaping jaws of the trash compactor. When they've done a few houses, it's ascend back up the steel tread steps, throw the truck in gear, and keep going. It is not a fast process, but it is thorough. On Thursday this week, as I got my kids ready to go out the door to school, the horns started. Or rather, one car horn. Somebody stuck behind the garbage truck. We live on a one-way street. There was literally nowhere else to go. But Horn Guy was late for something or personally insulted at being caught in this slow-moving procession he felt had nothing to do with him. And so he laid on his horn and wouldn't stop. And when this didn't speed things up, he got out of the car to scream at the garbage men. Then he started screaming at our female neighbor across the street, and that's when I walked my kids across the street, sent them on their way in the alley to school, and photographed him and his license plate and called the police. Thursday was the feast of the Ascension, when Christ, with his dirty, wounded hands, blessed his followers and ascended to sit at the right hand of God. The Coles Notes is that Jesus is returning to be with God in the fullest way possible, to sit on God's right hand, the place of authority and power and honor, the place where he already was at the beginning when all creation came into being through him. In reflecting on the theological significance of this event, the Apostle Paul wrote to the Ephesians, when it says he ascended, what does it mean but that he also descended into the lower parts of the earth? He who descended is the same one who ascended far above all the heavens so that he might fill all things. The one who ascended is the same one who descended. This is one of the most important theological truths we could ever let seep down into our bones. For the one who now sits at God's right hand is the same one who descended to the lowest place. The one riding shotgun in the acid green truck high above the muck and the filth of the world is the same one who chose to descend the steel-tread stairs to deal with all the crap we've left overflowing at the curb of our lives. We try to cover it up or put a sign next to it, free. But deep down, we know it isn't free. Maybe you've heard the story. When Jesus descended from God's right hand to take away the trash, our trash, we screamed at him and laid on the horn. But life is a one-way street, and there is no way around the truck. It takes as long as it takes to get rid of the trash, and not one single one of us can get around it. How we treat the garbage man and the women who come to his aid is a reliable oil check for how our souls are doing. Do we just wish he would hurry up? Do we scream at him because of all that he reminds us of what we would rather forget? The pile of half-processed stuff lying in the corner. Addictions we're struggling to manage, relationships that are unraveling, hungers that frighten us with their urgency. On a garbage dump 2,000 years ago, Jesus was crucified. And the crowd yelled and screamed and treated him like garbage until he became nothing more than garbage in their eyes. And the one who came to deal with our garbage was himself thrown away like so much garbage. The one who descended from the highest place descended further still, to hell and the place from which men do not return. Except that on the third day, he did. He rose from that place from which none had yet risen, and they didn't believe it, and they thought it was a ghost, until he showed them his dirty, wounded hands. But you're the garbage man, the one we threw away. And they wept. And he did not take down license plates and call the police. He came not with words of retribution, but spoke upon them a single word, peace. Peace be with you. And he blessed them, and while he was blessing them, he withdrew from them. Some say he got back into an acid green truck and drove off into the distance. Others that he was carried up to heaven. All agree on this one point. When they came to their senses again and looked around, The lids of the black bins of their souls were open wide, and all their garbage was gone. I was speaking with someone this week about the feelings and emotions we consider appropriate to bring to church. How gratitude and joy were there and real and sometimes not difficult to express in worship. But we acknowledge there were other emotions too, darker ones maybe: anger, guilt, resentment, shame, regret. And I'll add that sometimes there are things going on where all we know how or want to do is scream. Not long ago, I shared with our warden team why, in part, I'd taken to lifting heavy weights in my shed during the pandemic. Because it gave me an excuse to scream at something that wasn't the people I loved most in the world. And when my spiritual director told me in dead seriousness that that was a form of prayer, that's when I took the shed and the weight seriously. You may not know it, but every Sunday is garbage day. For we don't come here to perform or to pretend or to perfume reality, because that doesn't help anybody. We come here to find a way to say, there's stuff I've done that I'm not proud of and I'm struggling to feel forgiven for, and I don't know where to put it, and I don't know how to make it go away. You put it in here, at the foot of the cross, the same place where God placed the sin of the whole world and where Jesus bore it and descended to hell with it and left it there. And on the third day, he rose again and ascended that truck to sit at the right hand of God for all time. And the garbage is gone.